Hey folks, Zach Osterman here, IU Insider, Indianapolis Star. I want to pop this off just so that it doesn't mess with the Bluetooth
Yeah, we
microphone.
don't know who you are. Well, I guess that's a good point.
They're gonna throw us both out. Mike Niziolek, Bloomington Herald Times, Zach Osterman, Indianapolis Star, talking about number 18 Indiana 90, Eastern Illinois 55.
Do we have to?
I would say it's about as defined as a game of two halves can be. Indiana was really bad in the first half, like lacking energy, lacking effort. I think Mike Woodson said he thought his team was still in bed asleep. Nothing really engaged them with the game. Nobody really, I mean, there were some individual moments, but nothing really got them going. Eastern Illinois actually led this game by a point at halftime and deserved to. And then Indiana comes out in the second half. I think it's fair to say someone was brought to Jesus. Mike Woodson never talks about what he says in the halftime locker room, but you certainly got the sense that some paint was stripped off the walls because Indiana was night and day better in the second half, outscored Eastern Illinois 54-18. And, ultimately the final score that this game should have, just maybe not the route there that anyone was expecting.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. We could talk about the game. I mean, it was really just not much of a game. I mean, the second half, they had such a big talent advantage, which Malik Renew kind of pointed out that he didn't think they'd be as talented, but that shouldn't matter. I mean, you saw the talent advantage in the second half when they outscored them 54-18. And just last week, this team lost by 45 to Illinois. So the results shouldn't have been in question. But in terms of where this team's at and like competitive play, like, what's your level, or what do you think the level concern should be that they look sort of this haphazard on offense for two games?
I mean, I wouldn't describe it as haphazard. I think
I don't know what the right word is. It's
I said this about Kane and Carlisle in my post-game match ratings, and I think it maybe does extend to portions of Indiana's offense more generally, where it's almost like nobody's quite sure where to take certain players to find their offense. Now, some
I want to say
Malik Renew, yes. Umar Ballo, I think another game where it's like, hey, look at it's almost like Indiana's kind of figuring out in real time. He's a lot better going at the rim than he is back to the basket. Yeah. Mackenzie Mbako, of course, is encouraging when you're seeing score at all three levels.
Mackenzie's the biggest exception.
But it's kind of this. It's more kind of this idea that it's like it's there in moments, and then it disappears, and you've got Trey Galloway and Miles Rice today, 13 assists and just 4 turnovers. There are moments when they really kind of light things up and get things moving. And then there are moments.
I saw a moment of that from Rice today.
I think in the second half, absolutely. First half, I think in the first half, he was the one who was trying to get it going. And that led to him rushing because, frankly, a lot of the effort around him wasn't very good. And that just kind of led to him dribbling into sort of just into nowhere, lots of turnovers, dribbling into traffic. And I think it was him trying to say, with the way he plays the game, I'm going to try to inject some pace, some energy, some spark. But then when no one else is responding, and this is maybe what you're talking about a little bit with the offense, when no one else is responding, it just winds up looking sloppy and kind of panicky. And I thought you saw a few different plays. It's like this team knows it's talented and just doesn't exactly know where to put that talent and what to do with it. And then I think it was compounded today with the fact that, it is fair to say they just did not play hard in the first half.
Yeah, and that was manifested more on the defensive side than the offensive side. They just didn't play crisp enough. I mean, they just not shooting well from the outside still. So you think that everything will click?
No, I don't necessarily think. I think there are moments when you do see it click into place, but the fight for any basketball team is certainly one in this position where they've got so many new pieces, and that's going to become obviously more commonplace in modern college basketball in general. The fight for any college basketball team is, how do you do it consistently? How do you do it when the other team changes defenses, or when you have to go to your bench, or when somebody gets in foul trouble, or whatever? I think you see it in moments. And, when I say it's a game of two halves, I thought you saw it barely at all in the first half. And then actually, I thought you saw it for most of the second half. So,
did you see? But I mean, I see it I thought they just get by talent alone in the second half. I don't think it was much. I don't think that they were doing great things on offense. They were hustling more on defense, creating more turnovers, and then they kind of got what they wanted at the rim because they had such a size advantage. you thought they looked more cohesive as an offensive unit? Because I just didn't. I mean, I don't know.
I thought they were a lot more engaged defensively, and I thought they gave them the energy and the energy and the focus at the offensive end to be sharper. Like there's some. I mean, even like first of all, they really had success getting out in transition once they started playing defense with any real effort and forcing turnovers. They wind up with 31 fast break points, which is a huge number in any game, no matter who you're playing. Like 31 in a college game is a lot for fast break points. But like even, there were the set that comes to mind, they were running one in the second half, and I don't remember if it was Rice or Galloway with the ball, but he ran a high pick and roll, like dead middle of the floor, with Umar Ballo, and Malik Renew basically cut in from the backside of the play. Ballo caught the ball on the pick and roll and just fired it between two defenders to Renew, who was wide open because everyone had come out to defend the high ball screen. So, like, there were moments, and again, some of it was just effort. Like, some of it was just straight up and down. In the first half, they were not playing hard, they were not engaged, they were not focused, and it showed everywhere. Some of it, I thought, was them starting to have little moments, little bits and pieces, even shots that didn't go down. Like Miles Rice had a really good transition moment that I think it was just off a rebound. I don't think it was off a turnover, where Luke Goody just trailed around behind him, circled around behind him, and Rice just gave him a little sort of dribble handoff, turned around, handed off. The shot didn't go down, but it was a great shot. Like for who it was in that moment in transition, it was a great look for Goody. I just think there are moments. Maybe I expected this team to be a little bit less fully formed than you did early in the season.
I guess that's probably where we differ. That,
but when I say that, what I want to emphasize is I'm not guaranteeing they'll get there. I just see, like I did the other night, the moments when they kind of give you some belief.
Well, I guess my point is a cause for concern that it's only moments, that they're not
not in November.
Against bad teams.
That's for me. Not in November.
So you're
like a year ago, we were talking in these games, and we were saying if you can't beat Army by more than 8, if you can't beat Wright State by more than 9, that's cause for concern, because that means that you are just not capable of essentially asserting your control over a game at both ends of the floor consistently. And we don't have to rehash like what to make out of a season where Indiana goes 500 in the Big Ten and yet is nowhere near the NCAA tournament. But that did kind of bear itself out. This was the sort of game if I just covered up the halftime, the half by half scores, and I just said this is the box score and this is the final score. This is the sort of game you were talking about. Then you thought you needed to see against SIU Edwardsville. And what I am simply saying is on November 10th, I think it is fine if Indiana looks like this. If on January 10th, Indiana looks like this, if when Indiana goes to Atlantis, it can't raise its game, because Malik Renew also said, you talked about this, he said like he tried to find a diplomatic way to say basically we didn't take Eastern Illinois seriously enough and they kind of punched us in the mouth because of it. We got into halftime. We straightened ourselves out. And we came back out. And we're a lot better. But if this is a problem when it matters, then yeah. But if it's if this is just a bad 20 minutes on the floor, that for a team that's still sort of putting the building blocks in place of how good it can be, then no, I wouldn't worry about it. That's my opinion. Like, listen, that's kind of equivocating, but it's my way of just saying I did not expect this team to look like anything resembling the finished product at this point in the season. No. I expected some up and down, and if we get to January and February and these are just growing pains Indiana had to go through, then it's going to be fine. If the first half is indicative of concerns that Indiana's been fighting all year, then
I saw them last year, just last year with Woodson. Would they have these kind of clunkers in terms of like coming out with no effort? First 2 seasons,
every once in a while, yeah. They his first season, they had some pretty persistent struggles in the first half.
So is that something to? Does he?
I don't know. It is a fair question, I think, in terms of like preparation and why does it get, why does it move in one direction sometimes consistently, but then you can kind of, I don't know. I watched Trey Galloway today, and it felt like he was the adult on the floor. and it felt like
I thought he was. I thought
he
that
was the
one
one
of my
that
main takeaways of these first two games is that he's been the injection of energy and stability and confidence every time he's been on the floor. With the exception of he has not been able to lift when he's the point guard with the all four bench players lineup.
Yeah,
but that's not.
But Mike Woodson said after the game, he said like we're too experienced. Other guys got to lead too. Like we've got
right, and that's what I think. That's I guess my point is that I thought it would look a little cleaner and it would look a little better.
See, I think
because there's like 3 out of the 4 quarters now where I just don't think this team's looked great.
Yeah,
this was the one quarter, the second quarter half. The second half was the best they've looked all season, and things were easy. But like it shouldn't take 3 quarters and a talking to get to that point. Like that seems to be concerning that they needed to like, hey, you should show effort against the team.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think it's a concern in game number 2. That's pretty much what I come down to. If this is, and this is where I equivocate by simply saying we need more season.
You got to have your standards, right? We're learning on one side of the campus here that standards are the standards, and here it just feels like the standards are the standards.
Okay, so over there they play 12 games, and they looked pretty bad for long stretches of the first one. I would point that out.
No, but the standard was still the standard, so it wasn't good enough, and so like that, like.
I mean, Mike Woodson said he thought his players were asleep in their beds. I did not take that as this was fine.
I don't know, but his tone overall just didn't seem bothered by it because they won by it.
His tone overall never changes. Good or bad. Like no, I'm serious. Like Woodson is just like good or bad. He's pretty.
Maybe it's more swear words when he's more frustrated.
Yeah, but also sometimes it's the same tone. Sometimes it's more swear words when he's loose, though. Like except for that one time. I've not seen him loose. I guess that one time with Fran McCaffrey. Those swear words were absolutely dedicated.
When was Mike Woodson loose?
Well, at media day, he drops 4-letter words all the time, and everybody's laughing.
But I wouldn't say him. I don't laugh. When did he laugh? What did he laugh about?
I have seen Mike Woodson laugh.
I don't
multiple times. I think you're not paying any attention. I'm wondering about any of your observations when like there are just basic memories that you don't have.
I need citations for this laughing.
You need to open your eyes.
No, is it like a chuckle? Like a laugh?
Yeah, it's like a chuckle. Laugh. Like it's like
chuckles aren't laugh. We can get into that later. We can debate that later.
Point is, he's a very steady person, generally speaking, emotionally. Like I said, the only time I've ever really seen him get hot, I think, with the press post game was that Fran McCaffrey, where McCaffrey like got the second technical, then Paul Zelk like
story.
It is. It was a great post game moment. It's always great when a coach says, "I'm not going to talk about that," and then they talk about it.
They're angry.
Yeah, with swear words included.
Yeah.
A couple individual performances. You said you wanted to do 5 minutes, and you've already spooled this out to 13.
I'm just vamping here. Punchy.
The bigs were fine. I thought Ballo was better not in the first half, but in the second half certainly. I thought Malik Renew was good, just kind of very like steady. Not a lot of mistakes, pretty clean. The one that I think you have to continue to be encouraged by, even relative to the competition, is Mackenzie Mbako. 18 points on 7 of 10 shooting. I think you're more encouraged by 7 rebounds. That's 16 in 2 games and 4 assists. I think that's 6 in 2 games. We talked so much last year about like it just seemed like Mackenzie Mbako did not know how to engage with the game around him, especially this time of year. And obviously, it's not like you expect him to reset. He's going to build on where he was last year. But one of the big talking points, one of the big questions about Indiana this season was, can Mackenzie Mbako build on how he finished last season and where he got to by about the last month of 2024, of the 2023-24 season? Through these first 2 games, I think you are encouraged, obviously, by the offense. He's assertive, he's aggressive, he's scoring at all 3 levels. He's hitting threes, mid-range, and at the rim. But like, he had a steal and score tonight. He had, I think, a couple more deflections that led to turnovers and scores. 16 rebounds in 2 games is obviously really promising. Like, he just looks like he is ready to go up that level that we thought he might with the way he ended last season.
Well, I think the encouraging plays are like and I pointed out one in the first game where he kind of had a steal after a 3-pointer today. They were, struggling, and he had and they kind of started that run, and then he got the steal on the inbounds pass. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a big moment. I think that pushed the run to over 10 points, 11-0 at the start of the second half. Those are the moments I think you talk about being engaged, where it's not just, oh, my shot's falling, I can play.
Yeah.
Play with anybody. It's I can score and do all this other stuff, and I think you've seen that. He's been the best player for Indiana in throughout this whole. Like we talk about all 4 halves. Like he's been their best.
Yeah,
player.
and like the scoring at all 3 levels thing is not to be underrated. Like it's when you have somebody that can reliably obviously hit threes, and I think he's something like 4 of 9 or 4 of 8 right now from 3. So like he's fine.
Well, he's only one shooting out from the outside with any sort of confidence at the moment.
Yeah, no, basically. But he is willing to and capable of taking defenders on the bounce, pulling up in the mid-range, and also going all the way to the rim because what a good free throw shooter he is. And obviously, against teams that are going to want to try and play Indiana a little bit smaller, he's going to have a size advantage when he does get going downhill, and he's probably going to draw some fouls. Like, it's encouraging the idea that when we talk about how can this team score different, somebody asked, like, do you want to see Miles Rice get more offense from Mike Woodson? And I don't know that you need to put a number of points per game on Rice. I think it's much more about where he engages with the game. Obviously, the assist to turnover numbers, and then sort of one of those classic point guard kind of on the nights when it's there, you go score like the Tennessee exhibition. On nights like this, when it's not, your job is to keep things ticking over and creating for others. I think Trey Galloway's a little bit there too, but it's encouraging that you've got a player that can be an offensive mismatch in multiple ways, not just going and hunting threes or getting down and banging around the rim, but if you can score at all 3 levels, if you can make threes, make free throws, get fouled, and now you see the activity and the energy, the defensive end of the floor. I think if you're Mike Woodson, you're looking at Mackenzie and Blanco through these first 2 games, and you're telling him that is exactly what we need. And I don't expect 25 points a game is what he's averaging now, give or take, in Big Ten play, but that kind of effort, that kind of focus, that kind of aggressiveness will get you results in the Big Ten.
Here's a question for you. We can end on this.
Yeah.
Trey Galloway, once his minutes are built up, do you put him back in the starting lineup, or do you keep him as a bench player?
Yeah, I can kind of go both ways on that.
Pros and cons for
both. Because I do think on the one hand, it's, you would have to put him in for Cannon Carlisle, who is kind of the ultimate one right now where it's I don't know if Indiana knows how to get him where he needs to be to find his offense. Yeah. He's trying to find it. It's clearly frustrating him.
Missed 2 bunnies.
He did hit a couple threes in the second half. Maybe that kind of gets him going. Sometimes guys just need to see a couple shots fall. On the Carlisle side of it, if you're Mike Woodson, you have to be careful that you don't just wreck a guy's confidence.
It has less to do with Carlisle, I think, than Galloway. But I understand what you're saying. If he perceives it and then it hurts him.
Yeah. Because if Trey Galloway's playing real well for you off the bench and you flip him for Cannon Carlisle, but Cannon Carlisle takes that as then suddenly you've lost a bench player, and would you be getting this? I think honestly, I guess my right now, my answer would be I'd probably keep him off the bench because it's not like that's hampering his production.
That's fair.
It's not. I mean,
But do you get off to quicker starts? When you get a Big Ten play, is having him you can't start from a hole every game.
Here's the other question though: if you start him, because I think if you're Indiana, once you get to the business end of the season where you got your lineup, your rotations pared down to 8 or 9, 10 at the outside. I don't know how many minutes you're going to want to play without either Miles Rice or Trey Galloway on the floor. Mm-hmm. And if you play Trey Galloway off the bench, you can design your rotations such that one of them is always out there. And there's other guys. Carlisle can bring it up. Gabe Cupps, obviously. I thought it was interesting Indiana intentionally putting the ball in Bryson Tucker's hands for a few possessions to initiate the offense. But I think it's easier to make sure one of those guys is on the floor basically all the time, and that you have essentially a quality Big Ten level point guard on the floor all the time if Galloway's coming off.
And I tend to agree. I think you need that kind of consistent guy off the bench to sort of give that energy. But I think if we keep seeing kind of these, if this team's not a good starting team, you might have to try to shake things up. But I think it's one of the more interesting questions here as we go forward. When he's able to kind of get to 25 minutes, I don't think he played 20 minutes in the first game either. So when he gets to that 25 minutes sort of comfortable and feeling good physically, I think is a question that'll be interesting because, like you said, I see both, to be honest. And, that veteran sort of presence, does that make a difference, sort of, especially in Big Ten play? Because, look, you're not going to get a ton of really good games here in the non-conference schedule. So, is having him sort of there kind of going to help steady things. But something to think about. I think that's one of the sort of interesting questions that's emerged sort of here in the first week of the season.
No, I think that's fair. We'll leave it there. Terry, thank you for the comments. We did not intend to even go this long, so we're going to just kind of shut it down for now. Sorry, we're not ignoring. We promise. We just didn't want to overdo it for Eastern Illinois, and then Mike got to be in his bonnet. So
I have a B.
I like blaming things on you. He's Mike Niziolek. I'm Zach Osterman. Indiana 90, Eastern Illinois 55. Hoosiers are 2-0. They have the week off. South Carolina, you got the tip time right. I didn't. 3 p.m. Saturday at Assembly Hall. That is their only, I guess, high major Power 4, however you want to say it, non-conference home game. So however good South Carolina is, at least we'll have a little bit more of a feel for this team after that game. Football's off this week, so things are going to be quiet, but we will have our weekly Mind Your Banner show, just kind of looking back through a lot of different stuff. We'll probably do that either Wednesday or Thursday. Obviously want to let the playoff rankings come out because I think we're going to learn, looking at those polls drop today, I think we're going to learn a lot about like what the committee thinks of how the committee balances 10-0 in Indiana against a 2-loss SEC, because virtually everybody has 2 losses. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. This has been Mind Your Banners. We will talk to you soon.